And welcome back to Metropole Sports Center. My name is Nation Owano. In case you're joining us and you're wondering what we're talking about on Metropole Sports Center today, we're talking about the developments that have been happening in the local football scene. In case you missed it in the headlines, the Harambee Starlets camp was officially closed this past week. This is because they were not going to be participating in the ongoing Africa Women's Cup of Nations, which is scheduled to be taking place. Now, important to mention that part of the qualification for part of as part of playing for the African women, AFCON, as we are calling it, was going to secure them a slot into the FIFA Women's World Cup that is supposed to be taking place in a matter of months from now. And joining me in studio once again is our resident African football analyst, that is Eric Shilenje, and we are to make sense of this latest development. Shilenje, somebody might be asking, and we were talking about this in the first part of the show, how did we get ourselves into this mess?
In maybe simple matters, this was the last, or rather was to be the last qualifier to AFCON, the Africa Women Cup of Nations, which shall be played in Morocco just after the FIFA World Cup in summer. And Kenya was to play against Uganda. They're called the Crescent Cranes of Uganda.
Yeah.
And Kenya had already won the first stage of the qualifications when they played against South Sudan. They beat South Sudan 15-1 on aggregate. And this was a second two-legged game. That first game was to be played in Uganda. That is on the 17th, this weekend. Then a week later, a return match was to be played in Kenya. And usually, the body supposed to organize for this game is usually the federation of the country.
Yeah, which is FKF
in this case. FKF.
Which we do not have at the moment.
Which was disbanded.
Yeah.
And given that the caretaker committee was the one that is in office, so naturally it was the one to be supposed to organize for the match. But a communication from CAF went direct to the disbanded FKF, asking them of the status quo on how the game shall be played. And they replied through former CEO Barry Otieno, said that in the circumstances that they are in, they are not able to fully organize for the game. And unless matters change, because they are not in office, they cannot organize for the game. And once CAF received that letter from Barry Otieno, they wrote back giving Uganda a walkover. Yeah, that's why that's when all matters broke loose. That is when caretaker committee came in to start reacting and see whether this game can be played. And it really shows you how CAF has bypassed the caretaker committee.
Yeah.
CAF doesn't recognize the caretaker committee, doesn't deal with it. That's why they went direct to the federation officials. And what the caretaker committee needed to do was to appeal this decision by CAF to give Uganda a walkaway. But they didn't do that. Instead, they wrote a letter to CAF, of which CAF never responded to. And that every sort of those things have led up to Uganda getting a free qualification to the AFCON. Given that this was the final stage of the qualifications, Kenya arguably is better than Uganda. They've been superior than Uganda, and they could have won against Uganda to qualify for the AFCON. It means our ladies will not participate in the AFCON that will be played in Morocco. They could have also advanced to World Cup. They will not. They will not showcase their talents. And for the past about 5 or so years, the women football has been on the rise. They won the CECAFA in 2018 against Tanzania, that was played in TZ. They played in their inaugural, or rather their debut AFCON tournament in 2016, and seen that period, we've had a good development in the women's football. We've had good players coming up, the likes of Shikangwa.
Gentrix
Shikangwa right now is signed by a Turkish club.
Yeah.
We have the likes of Manahalima Adams, also signed by a Turkish club.
Yeah, we also have Rachel Mwema.
Yes.
She's also part of the team.
Lilian Awar was just signed by a Ligue 1 club from France this year.
Yeah.
So it means that the development of these talents shall not happen again this year. We have maybe to wait for another tournament to happen. They were scouted actually during the African Champions League for the ladies.
Yeah.
That was played in Egypt.
Yeah.
That's when these players were scouted and signed.
Yeah, the one where they were complaining there's no girlie.
Yes, that one that was played in Egypt. They won one game, yes, they went out, but they won the hearts, and many scouts came in and were actually able to sign those 3 players outside. So those are the kind of things that we are going to miss due to this unable ending feuds between the government and federations and CAF and all those things.
Okay, maybe somebody might be asking, this whole issue of Harambee Starlets, you know, is there a better way it could have been handled? Because there's one quarter who are sort of saying that in as much as Barry is, beg your pardon, in as much as Barry is interested in developing the football, he was a bit selfish in that end, because the people were saying it's sort of like a battle of egos. Do you think this whole issue could have be solved any better?
As much as there is a battle of egos, I think the most big-headed person here is the Confederation of African Football, CAF, who, in any case, are the controller of football in Africa. So whatever happens in Kenya, whatever ego is in Kenya, cannot supersede the ego of CAF.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of Kenya having a give and take situation, whereby the caretaker committee, the government, the defunct FKF can sit on a table and talk. They talk to one another and have a solution. But as long as we are having an ego of these 2 bodies, that is the FKF, who is recognized by CAF, and the caretaker committee, who doesn't recognize FKF, as long as these 2 doesn't agree alongside the government and give one representation to CAF, CAF is still going to recognize FKF. The government is going is not going to recognize FKF. Now it leaves the player in the middle here, who is not going to be able to play or participate in any matches or competitions that are sponsored by CAF or FIFA.
Yeah.
It also even goes down to the Kenyan Premier League.
Yeah.
Yes, they are playing games. We are going to have a champion for Kenya Premier League.
Yeah.
But after that, what happens?
Yeah.
If this situation shall not have been solved by them, what happens?
Yeah. And interesting that you mentioned matters to do with the Kenya Premier League, and I think we mentioned it in the first part of the game. Last season, just as the season was ending, we had Tusker being crowned the champions. And a key thing that happens during the end of the season is the selection for the teams that are going to be participating in the CAF Champions League and the Confederations Cup. How do you think this issue is going to play out? Because we need a team that is going to represent us in the CAF Confederations Cup.
The way CAF operates is very simple.
Yeah.
They're going to write to FKF to ask them for the Kenyan competitors for the 2 competitions, that is the CAF Confederations and CAF Champions League. It's a matter of FKF giving the competitor or their representative from Kenya. So if FKF say that we didn't run a league, we were thrown out of office, we didn't organize for a league, and for that case we don't have a winner or a team to represent us, it means that Kenya shall go without representation.
Yeah.
So caretaker committee is in place, yes, but what are they going to do about this? Because CAF talks to FKF.
Yeah.
It doesn't talk to the caretaker committee. Are they going to bridge these differences between these 2 bodies as well as to the government? That is their work cut out. And I believe that the people in office people who understand football. They understand the law, they understand the regulations of CAF and FIFA. They need to give solutions. They don't need just to sit at the office and enjoy their salaries and say that they've been there for 6 months and maybe organize an election. No, they need to think ahead. They need to plan ahead, give solutions for these matters that are going to rise, not to react and not to be big-headed and refuse to talk to one another. They need not to brush aside the defunct FKF. Even if they were sent home, they are still recognized by FIFA and CAF, which are world governing bodies which regulate football in Africa and over the world. So there's no way you are going to neglect FIFA and want to play in a FIFA competition. Neglect what CAF is saying. At the same time, you want to participate in a CAF competition. There is no way.
Interesting that you mentioned that, because, you know, we are now getting into the space where we are going to be having the World Cup qualifiers. Of course, as a country, we're already out of that. But then Harambee Stars is set also their qualifiers coming up in a matter of months from that. An interesting thing that maybe I think I would be interested in looking at is how do you think the issue is going to be playing out, in the sense of FIFA is sort of like selectively allowing games to be played? Because you remember, and you were talking about this off air, you remember late last year, even when Nick Mwendwa was removed from the office, there was a World Cup qualifier that was being played. That was Kenya against Rwanda. That game was still played when there was nobody. So how do you think things are going to pan out in a matter of times now, if because we have the AFCON qualifiers coming next?
I really don't trust FIFA in any way. With the decision they made earlier, I understand they had talks between themselves and the ministry and FKF just after the ban, or rather the federation was thrown away. And I'm not sure what they discussed, but from the recent happenings by CAF, it shows maybe they didn't agree with one another on the way forward. But whatever CAF is doing, I highly believe FIFA might do the same when it comes to the qualifiers, even if they do so or not. But as a team, as Harambee Stars, there are still so many questions unanswered. The team doesn't have a coach. After the federation went with their European tourist, they haven't employed a new coach.
I like how you've always insisted that he was a tourist.
Yeah, he was a tourist. Where is he? Where is he now?
His contract is there.
He had come to tour Kenya. He had seen it all. And now he has left. He was a tourist, no matter about that. And so, as a national team, when we are going to the international break in March, we should be playing international friendlies. Are they going to happen without a coach?
Like, our house is in total mess.
It's in total mess. So we need to start from the basics. Good thing they were able to employ the ladies side coach, Alex Alomira, who took over as the coach of the Harambee Starlets. But the Harambee Stars doesn't have a coach for now. So they need to begin from there. Whether we are going to play the qualifiers or not, whether we are going to play the friendlies or not, who is going to be in charge of the team? As the other matters are handled, maybe at an administrative level, there needs to be a dialogue, or rather, there need to be a political decision to solve that, because FIFA is as well political, CAF is political, so there need to be those give and take decisions to resolve this matter, or else if we go by the book, Kenya is in problems. Okay.
Chilenje, somebody might want to argue that, you know, the Kenyan men football team has been receiving a lot of support from the government. But looking at the structure right now, the ladies' side looks to be a bit more composed and in order as compared to the men's national team. Which dynamics are at play here?
I think from the start, since the formation of the ladies team, let me say not formation, but actually the resurgence with the regime of Nick Mwendwa, actually, we need to give credit to him for the resurrection of the ladies football. I think it's been really spot on directly that the ladies team are going to carry the Kenyan's flag to the World Cup way fast before than the men's team. Their performance has been really good, straight on. They've been really doing good things, and I think maybe the way they run their affairs is different from the men's. But at the same time, we need to question the players. There's nobody who questions the players.
Yeah.
When everything goes wrong, it's about the management, it's about the federation, it's about the funds, it's about the ministry, everything. But nobody questions the players, which is different from other teams. We have other African teams that are poorly organized, but perform way better than Kenya. Because of the player. So nobody here asks the players or puts them to task on why they didn't perform. The moment you are selected to a national team, which is a proud moment, you need to turn out and perform for your country. Nobody asks that question. So as much as we say there are factors or support or this and this that lead to these performances, who speaks for the player? Who asks the player? When
There's
the player,
no level of accountability.
There's no accountability for the player. But when the players are mistreated or their things don't work out, they have so many people to call out. But when they don't perform, for example, we lose 5-0 to Mali away, when everything was in order. We come back to Nyayo, we still lose 1-0. Who questions the player?
And I remember at the time people were questioning the federation in terms of what they had done to help the players. But I agree with you. At the end of the day, football is it takes different quarters to play.
It's a collective game.
There is the coaches, there is the players, and then there is the federation in itself. Shilenje, going forward as we wrap up this conversation, which way now for Harambee Starlets?
For Harambee Starlets, I think their case is closed. They need maybe just to go back. The ladies, they need to go back to their clubs. They should not drop their heads. They need to go back, perform better for their clubs. Another chance is going to come, of course, during the preceding tournaments for Sikafa, for the Ocon, as well as for the FIFA World Cup. Let's hope that by then they shall have resolved these administrative issues. But for now, they just need to go back and play. Nothing else.
They go back to their respective clubs.
Yes, they go back to their clubs. I think the positive here is that they were paid their allowances. They stayed in the camp for 21 days. They were paid about 5,000 per day. That's good money for them. So they can take that one as a positive in that entire fiasco. They had support, good support from the government side, from the fans, from the committee, and apart from them missing out to go and play against Uganda, every other thing worked for them. So they can pick those positives, go back to their clubs and work hard. Another chance is coming.
Okay. Thank you so much, Shilenje. It's always fun having you on the show talking matters African football.
My pleasure.
And I know the World Cup qualifiers are coming up next month.
Yeah, in March.
The playoffs.
Big matches.
Those are big matches. We have Ghana versus Nigeria.
We have a repeat of the
final, Senegal versus Egypt.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting conversation that you're definitely going to be having on the show.
Very.
So that's all the time that we had on Metropole Sports Center. Do wish you a fantastic weekend. See you next week, same place, same time.